Double check my volume. Beautiful people. Betwabu. Siene. Sawubona. But now y'all should know what that means. Sawubona. All right, beautiful people. Tiffany, Betwabu, yeah, Betwabu. All right, y'all. Sawubona. All right, y'all. It is Tuesday, May the 26th, 2020, day 156, and we are reading the last 3 missing chapters of the book of Esther, 13, 14, and 15. I want to see if y'all catch on. Y'all may have. Y'all probably did. If y'all only read it once, y'all may not have. Betwabu, Trina, Betwabu. Okay, y'all. So let's get right to it. Y'all probably, when we get to the end, when we get to the last chapter, let me just read. We'll read, and then I'll do it. Okay. Chapter 13. The great King Artaxerxes unto the princes and governors of 127 provinces from India unto Cush, and unto all our faithful subjects, greeting. Many the more often they are honored with the great bounty of their gracious princes, the more proud they are waxen, and endeavor to hurt not our subjects only, but not being able to bear abundance, do take in hand to practice also against those that do them good, and take not only thankfulness away from among men, but also lift it up with the glorious words of lewd pervert persons that were never good. They think to escape the justice of Elohim, that sees all things and hates evil. Oftentimes also fair speech of those that are put in trust to manage their friends' affairs has caused many that are in authority to be partakers of innocent blood, and has enwrapped them in remediless calamities, beguiling with the falsehood and deceit of their lewd disposition the innocency and goodness of princes. Now ye may see this, as we have declared, not so much by ancient histories as ye may, if ye search what has been wickedly done of late, through the pestilent behavior of them that are unworthily placed in authority. And we must take care for the time to come, that our kingdom may be quiet and peaceable for all men, both by changing our purposes and always judging things that are evident with more equal proceeding. For Haman, a Macedonian, the son of Hammedatha, being indeed a stranger from the Persian blood and far distant from our goodness, and as a stranger received of us, had so far forth obtained the favor that we show toward every nation, as that he was called our father, and was continually honored of all the next person unto the king. But he, not bearing his great dignity, went about to deprive us of our kingdom and life, having by manifold and cunning deceits sought of us the destruction, as well as Mordecai, who saved our life, and continually procured our good, as also of blameless Esther, partaker of our kingdom, with their whole nation. For by these means he thought, finding us destitute of friends, to have translated the kingdom of the Persians to the Macedonians. But we find that the Jews, whom this wicked wretch has delivered to utter destruction, are no evildoers, but live by most just Torah, and that they be children of El Elyon and most mighty living Elohim, who has ordered the kingdom both unto us and unto our progenitors in the most excellent manner. Wherefore, hold on, let me see something real quick. I need to. Okay, I'm trying to figure out who this is talking. I think it's the king. It's definitely got to be the king. Yeah, the great king unto the princes and governors. Okay, I was having a time figuring out who was talking. It's the king. King Artaxerxes is talking. It started with that, but it didn't, okay. Verse 16. And that they be children of El Elyon and most mighty, living Elohim, who has ordered the kingdom both unto us and to our progenitors in the most excellent manner. Wherefore ye shall do well not to put in execution the Sepharim, or the scrolls, sent unto you by Haman the son of Hammedatha. For he that was the worker of these things is hung in the gates of Shusha with all his family. Elohim, who rules all things, speedily rendering vengeance unto him according to his deserts. Therefore ye shall publish the copy of the Sefer in all places, that the Jews may freely live after their own Torah. And ye shall aid them, that even the same day, being the 13th day of the 12th month, Adar, that they may be avenged on them, who in the time of their affliction shall set upon them. For El Shaddai has turned joy unto them. For El Shaddai has turned to joy unto them the day, wherein the chosen people should have perished. Ye shall therefore among your solemn feasts keep it a high day with all feasting, that both now and hereafter there may be safety to us and the well-affected Persians. But to those which do conspire against us a memorial of destruction. Therefore every city and country whatsoever which shall not do according to these things shall be destroyed without mercy, with fire and sword, and shall be made not only unpassable for men, but also most hateful to wild beasts and fowls forever. The copy of the writing for a commandment to be given in every province was published unto all people, that the Jews should be ready against the day to avenge themselves on their enemies. Okay, this is in the king's writing. Okay, so this is Mordecai. Remember, Mordecai got the house, so he got the authority from the king to write in the king's name. Okay, this is the letter that's being written with the hands of Mordecai, with the king's authority. Okay, I got it now. 24. Therefore, every city and country whatsoever which shall not do according to these things shall be destroyed without mercy, with fire and sword, and shall be made not only unpassable for men, but also most hateful to wild beasts and fowls forever. The copy of the writing for a commandment to be given in every province was published unto all people, and that the Jews should be ready against that day to avenge themselves on their enemies. So the posts that rode upon mules and camels went out, being hastened and pressed on by the king's commandment, and the decree was given at Shushan the palace. And Mordecai went out from the presence of the king in royal apparel of blue and white, and with a great crown of gold, and with a garment of fine linen and purple. And the city of Shushan rejoiced and was glad. And the Jews had light and gladness and joy and honor, and in every province and in every city, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, the Jews had joy and gladness and feast and a good day. And many of the people of the land became Jews, for the fear of the Jews fell upon them. Okay, chapter 14. Now in the 12th month, that is, the month Adar, on the 13th day of the same, when the king's commandment and his decree drew near to be put in execution, in the day that the enemies of the Jews hoped to have power over them, though it was turned to the contrary, that the Jews had rule over them that hated them, the Jews gathered themselves together in their cities throughout all the provinces of King Artaxerxes to lay hands on such as sought their hurt, and no man could withstand them, for the fear of them fell upon all people, and all the rulers and the provinces and the lieutenants and the deputies and officers of the king helped at the Jews, because of the fear of Mordecai fell upon them. For Mordecai was great in the king's house, and his fame went throughout all the provinces. For this man Mordecai waxed greater and greater. Thus the Jews smote all their enemies with the stroke of the sword, and slaughter and destruction, and did what they would unto those that hated them. And in Shushan the palace the Jews slew and destroyed 500 men, and at the Parshadatha, and at the Dalphon, and at Akpatha, and at Poratha, and at Adalia, and at Aridatha, and at Parmashata, and eth Arikai, and eth Aridai, and eth Bayezatha, the 10 sons of Haman, the sons of Hammedatha, the enemy of the Jews, slew they, but on the spoil they laid not at their hand. On that day the number of those that were slain in Shushan the palace was brought before the king. And the king said unto Esther the queen, the Jews have slain and destroyed 500 men in Shushan the palace, and at the 10 sons of Haman. What have they done in the rest of the king's provinces? Now what is your petition, and it shall be granted you. Or what is your request further? And it shall be done. Then said Esther, if it please the king, let it be granted to the Jews which are in Shushan to do tomorrow also according unto this day's decree. And let Haman's 10 sons be hanged upon the gallows. And the king commanded it be done so. And the decree was given at Shushan, and they hanged Haman's 10 sons. For the Yehudim that were in Shushan gathered themselves together on the 14th day also of the month Adar, and slew 300 men at Shushan. But on the prey they laid not at their hand. But the other Jews that were in the king's provinces gathered themselves together and stood for their lives, and had rest from their enemies, and slew of their foes 75,000. But they laid not at their hands on the prey. On the 13th day of the month of Adar, and on the 14th day of the same, they rested, and made it a day of feasting and gladness. But the Jews that were at Shushan assembled together on the 13th day thereof, and on the 14th thereof, and on the 15th of the same, they rested, and made it a day of feasting and gladness. Therefore, the Jews of the villages that dwelt in the unwalled towns made at the 14th day of the month of Adar of gladness and feasting, and a good day, and of sending portions to one another. And Mordecai wrote at these things, and sent Sepharim unto all the Jews that were in all the provinces of King Artaxerxes, both nigh and far, to establish this among them, that they should keep at the 14th day of the month of Adar, and at the 15th day of the same, yearly, as the days wherein the Yehudim rested, or the Jews rested from their enemies, and the month which was turned unto them from sorrow to joy, and from mourning into a good day, that they should make them days of feasting and joy, and of sending portions to one another, and gifts to the poor. And the Jews undertook to do as they had begun, and as Mordecai had written unto them, because Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of all the Jews, had devised against the Jews to destroy them, and had cast pur, that is, a lot, to consume them and to destroy them. But when Esther came before the king, he commanded by Sepharim that his wicked device, which he had devised against the Jews, should return upon his own head, and that he and his son should be hung on the gallows. Wherefore they called these days Purim, after the name of the pur, which is P-U-R. It should have been purge, short for purge. That's what it really was. Therefore, for all the words of this letter, of that which they had seen concerning this matter, and which had come unto them, the Jews ordained and took upon them, and upon their seed, and upon all such as joined themselves unto them, so as it should not fail, that they would keep these 2 days according to their writing, and according to their appointed time every year, and that these days should be remembered and kept throughout every generation, every family, every province, and every city, and that these days of Purim should not fail from among the Jews, nor the memorial of them perish from their seed. Then Esther the queen, the daughter of Abigail, Mordecai the Jew, wrote with all authority to confirm this Sephir of Purim. And he sent the Sepharim unto all the Jews to the 127 provinces of the kingdom of Artaxerxes, with words of peace and truth, to confirm at these days of Purim in their times appointed, according as Mordecai the Jew and Esther the queen had enjoined them, and as they had decreed for themselves for their seed, the matters of the fastings and their cry. And the decree of Esther confirmed these matters of Purim, and it was written in the Sefer. All right, y'all, last chapter for today. Now, pay attention to this chapter and see if you can put it together. But even when I'm done, I'll help you put it together. So just listen. I want to see if you remember how this all started. Last chapter, chapter 15. And the king Artaxerxes laid tribute upon the land and upon the isles of the sea, and all the acts of his power and of his might, and of the declaration of the greatness of Mordecai, whereunto the king advanced him. Are they not written in the Sefer of the Chronicles of the kings of the Medes and the Persians? For Mordecai the Jew was next unto King Artaxerxes, and great among the Jews, and accepted the multitude of his brethren, seeking the wealth of his people, and speaking peace to all his seed. Listen. Then Mordecai said, Elohim has done these things, for I remember a dream which I saw concerning these matters, and nothing thereof has failed. a little fountain became a river, and there was a light and a sun and much water. This river is Esther, whom the king married and made queen. And the two dragons are I and Haman, and the nations whose those that were assembled to destroy the name of the Jews. And my nation is this Israel, which cried unto Elohim, and were saved. For Yahuwah has saved his people, and Yahuwah has delivered us from all those evils. And Elohim has wrought signs and great wonders, which have not been done among the other nations. Therefore has he made two lots, one for the people of Elohim, and another for all the other nations. And these two lots came at the hour and time and day of judgment before Elohim among all nations. So Elohim remembered his people and justified his inheritance. Therefore those days shall be unto them in the month of Adar, the 14th and 15th day of the same month, with an assembly and joy and with gladness before Elohim, according to the generations forever among his people. In the 4th year of the reign of Ptolemy and Cleopatra and Dositheus, who said he was a priest and Levite, and Ptolemy his son bought this Sephir of Purim, which they said was the same, and that Lysimachus, the son of Ptolemy, that was in Jerusalem, had interpreted. Okay, now let's go back to the beginning. Remember when we started this book. Remember, Esther is pieces of this entire book, like this right here. They call this the editions of Esther. It is really the full book of Esther, but the Esther that we see in the regular canonized Holy Bible is portions of this taken out, because when you read this, that entire book is included in here with the extra stuff that they didn't include when they put that in there, if that makes sense. Okay, so the book of Esther all started off with a dream that Mordecai had. I'm going to read you the dream again if you didn't catch it. It's in chapter 1. Listen. In the 2nd year of the reign of Artaxerxes the Great, in the 1st day of the month of Nisan, Mordecai, the son of Yair, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, of the tribe of Benjamin, had a dream, who was a Jew and dwelt in the city of Shusha, a great man, being a servitor in the king's court. He was also one of the captives which Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babel, carried from Jerusalem with Jeconiah, the king of Judah, and this was his dream. Listen. Behold, a noise of tumult with thunder and earthquakes and uproar in the land. And behold, 2 great dragons came forth ready to fight, and their cry was great. And at their cry all nations were prepared to battle, that they might fight against the righteous people. And lo, a day of darkness and obscurity, tribulation and anguish, affliction and great uproar upon the earth. And the whole righteous nation was troubled, fearing their own evils, and were ready to perish. Then they cried unto Elohim, and upon their cry, as it were from a little fountain, was made a great flood, even much water. The light and the sun rose up, and the lowly were exalted, and devoured the glorious. Now when Mordecai, who had seen this dream, and what Elohim had determined to do, was awake, he bore this dream in mind until night by all means was desirous to know of it. Now that we have read the entire book of Esther, including the portions that they left out, when we start with the dream, Yahuwah says he'll allow nothing to come upon his people without them being aware. So anything that's going to happen with Yahuwah's people, he always tells us. And most of the time he give it to us by dreams, or he sends the prophets, which the prophets reiterate what one of us have already dreamed is going to happen, right? So before all this happened with Esther and everything, Yah gave Mordecai a dream. So, and it starts with his dream and it ends with the interpretation of his dream. So it's Betwabu, Nikki, Betwabu, Alicia, Yah. So it starts with the dream plays out, and it gives us the interpretation. Now that I just reread you the dream, I'm going to reread the interpretation of it and think about everything that's happened over the course of time in the book of Esther and what we just read. All right. Last chapter 15, I started for. Then Mordecai said, Elohim has done these things. For I remember a dream which I saw concerning these matters, and nothing thereof has failed. A little fountain became a river, and there was light and sun and much water. This river is Esther, whom the king married and made queen. And the two dragons are I and Haman. And the nations were those that assembled to destroy the name of the Jews. And my nation, this Israel, which cried to Elohim and were saved, for Yahuwah has saved his people, and Yahuwah has delivered us from all those evils, and Elohim has wrought signs and great wonders which have not been done among the other nations. Therefore he has made two lots, one for the people of Elohim and another for all the other nations. And these two lots came at the hour and time and day of judgment before Elohim among all nations. So Elohim remembered his people and justified his inheritance. Y'all see it? I didn't get it until yesterday when I was rereading over. I was like, oh, shoot. It did start with a dream, didn't it? It didn't click until I read the interpretation of the dream when I got to it. And I was like, oh, snap. And I went back and I read the dream. So I wasn't sure how many of y'all actually caught that. That's why I reread the dream after we finished everything. And then I reread the interpretation. Sorry, getting tongue-tied. All right, y'all. So I hope you enjoyed the reading for today. And that is all of Esther we read. Esther and the missing chapters of Esther. And let's see. Y'all, what comes next here in the Sefer, which we didn't read the first time, is Judith. Like, there are books about women which were not included, but they were oh so very important, like Susanna and Judith. I'm not sure if y'all read about Judith or know her story, but Judith is the real MVP. Let me tell you about this sister. I'm gonna just give you a quick summation, real quick about who she is. Okay, she was married to a man named Manasseh. He was a righteous man, so they had business working out in the field. He died, right? So when he died, and she was already considered a holy and righteous woman, even the whole time while she was married to him, right? So after he died, everything that he was in charge of, she was now fully in charge of. So she inherited a lot because they were wealthy in a lot of things. She never remarried. Now, she was already a righteous woman living by Torah and seeking Yah. But after her husband passed away, she never remarried, right? And it says that she fasted. Now, when I was listening to that, because I was listening to it yesterday, and I listened to it like 3 times. And if you listen to the audio, and I'm going to post it here today, so if you want to listen to it, you can listen to it. When I listened to how she operated after her husband passed, she decided that she would fast for the rest of the days of her widowhood. Now, here's how she fasted. It says she fasted for the rest of the days of her widowhood, except for the eve of the Sabbath, the eve of the new moon. Okay, listen. You got the Sabbath coming in, and the day before is like the Sabbath Eve, the day of preparation. Okay, so make sure you follow me. Okay, so she fasted all week. Well, when I say all week, we remember that there's a Sabbath every week, a weekly Sabbath. So she fasted every day for the rest of her widowhood, like the rest of the time she was alive, except for these days. She didn't fast on the eve of the Sabbath or the Sabbath day. She didn't fast on the eve of the new moon or the new moon day. And she didn't fast on any of the other 7 feasts that Yahuwah gives us in Leviticus 23, right? So I sat there and thought about that. I was like, how in the world did this woman stay alive? Then I thought about it. The Sabbath kicked in. The Sabbath is a weekly feast. So in a whole, if she fasted, even if we don't even put the other feasts in there that she didn't fast on, that means every week for the rest of her life, she only ate 2 days out the week. I'm like, what the world? And I'm having trouble trying to restart a fast. She did this for the rest. She ate only 2 days out the week. I'm like, she the real MVP. I'm like, oh, snap. But what's crazy is it really got my attention. I started looking into this because I'm a part of this, like, fasting for health group. Not just when I do my fast for spiritual reasons, I do that. But I'm also a part of at least you're a part of it, this group fasting. And they got different ways that they fast. Bro, I'm striving to fast one day a week. Look, and so I was looking at the different ways that people fast and stuff. So they got all kinds of, they got like straight water fast, they be doing dry fast, they be doing like the OMAD diet and all this stuff. So I'm thinking about Judith and some of the stuff that the other people saying and how they be trying to fast. I'm like, who has fasted like this woman? She the real MVP. And why haven't we heard about her? What if more of our women was like Judith, right? But let me tell you, when she fasted this way, there was so much favor on her life from Yah that it was amazing. You have to read. I'm debating whether I want to start reading it tomorrow because I'm debating if I want to add this to our reading, and that would start tomorrow, right? And I think it's 15 chapters too. No, I'm sorry. It's 16 chapters. But she was so favored by Yah because of the discipline she had. I mean, her children was grown, her man was gone, and it was just her. You know, so it was just her and Yah. So she was handling affairs of the estate that her husband left her. And when she wasn't doing that or whatever, she was in the presence of Yah. Read it. Okay, we're going to read it. And it was just like, it blew me away. And what happened was there was so much favor on her that she became like the queen mother of the nation. Like, she didn't ask for it. Y'all just drew the people to her and they came to her. Imagine fasting all the rest of your life, only eating 2 days out the week. You know how much revelation and stuff you would probably get and how many open visions and all this. That's what I'm thinking about, what's going through my head. I'm like, what in the world? I gotta get all my flesh under control. This sounds good. Not that I want anybody to die to get this outside, but I need to kind of like start putting this in practice. I was looking at the favor and how y'all spoke to her and how things changed around her in the nation. And this was just one woman who was faithful to Yah. I'm like, oh, why have we never heard about Judith growing up? You know, so even there were men, even after her husband passed, that wanted her, and it specifically said no man had her. Like, she was faithful to her husband in life, and she was also faithful after he had passed away. It said she never remarried, and anybody who came into her presence, and there was this one guy, he was going to try to fool her or whatever, and he wanted to take her as his own, but it didn't happen. Y'all was watching over her, and he ended up head decapitated. I mean, this y'all, I'm gonna read it. We're gonna read it tomorrow. Nikki, we're gonna read it. Okay, so the first 3 chapters, it gives us the background of what's going on in the nation before it gets to Judith and how she comes into play. And it said that, and she was literally, I ain't gonna say she was the queen of the nation, but during that time while she was alive, and she lived a very long life, during the time she was alive, because of her her dedication to Yah, the whole nation of Israel rested, and it was in peace while she was alive. And it said not just while she was alive, but a long period after she had passed away, that Israel still lived in that peace because of her faithfulness. See, I was like, this blows my mind. I listened to it like 3 hours yesterday, like not back to back, but I listened to it because I was out in the car. I was like, what? And I had to listen to it again to take it in. I was like, what? And then I had to listen to it again, like, because this was my first time actually. I was like, you know, I probably should read Judith, you know, and I just decided while I was out in the garden, I decided to find the audio and let it play. But guys, I'm telling you, we're going to read it. Okay, so we're going to add it to the reading. We're going to start reading it tomorrow. If you want to read ahead, go ahead. If you want to listen to it, I'm going to post it down here. But it is absolutely, I thought it was an awesome book. So with that being said, I'm going to quit running my mouth today, and we're going to go ahead and do this blessing and get on up out of here. All right, so the blessing is found, y'all know well, Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. And Yahuwah oh, wait, I didn't even do the recap. Hold on. Today is Tuesday, May the 26th, 2020, day 156, and we completed the missing books of Esther with the last 3 chapters, 13, 14, and 15. All right, Now back to the blessing. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, May Yahuwah bless us and keep us. May Yahuwah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon us and give us his peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people, I love y'all, and I will see you bright and early in the morning, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace.